Hi folks, it's Wicklow, and we're here to talk about all of the books that I read from the release this Tuesday. Okay, so there was quite a lot of books that got released the past Tuesday, which was August 3rd, and even though there were so many books, I only read 3 books. I was able to read these because I was given access from the publishers and NetGalley, so that's why I was able to read them. The rest of them, I'm slowly making my way through them as they've been added to my TBR, which is about 10 miles long. So I will get to them eventually, but I always boost up my NetGalley and my ARC ones first because I want to get to them first. So first book we're going to be talking about is The Wild Ones, and I was given access to this book from Simon & Schuster's. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. This cover alone, before we even get to anything else, look at it. It's so beautiful, and I didn't realize that there's the front cover and then it spirals out into the rest of the girls from the stories. So you see all the rest of the lovely women in the Wild Ones group, and I'm just like, I kind of want this just because it had a great message and I love the cover art, but it wasn't my favorite book. My rating for this book was a 3.5 stars, and I think there was just like some elements that just didn't resonate with me, but overall, I just think it's just my own vibe. Like maybe I just wasn't reading it, or I was an off time reading it, because I'm coming back to this book because I thought I was gonna give it 5 stars instead of 5 stars, and I still think I could. Just right now it's gonna set it to 3.5 before I reread it, because I do think it was a vibe because it had all of the good points. Also, there's going to be trigger warnings along, so I will have a TW on the side if there's going to be tough subjects or triggering subjects that I'm going to be talking about. So the synopsis of The Wild Ones is a young woman has just had the most atrocious thing happen to her. It starts off with this. Her mother sold her for a favor and got her sexually assaulted. And while she's running away from both her mother and this monster that assaulted her, she ends up colliding with a young boy that literally has stars in his eyes, and he tosses her a box full of stars, tear-like stars, and from that she grows a group called the Wild Ones that don't age and are able to travel in between a magical place called the Between. So the Between has all magical elements, and they are able to travel between cities. They can't go beyond city walls, but they can travel between cities. So they can be in Madrid for one day, and then suddenly they're in Dublin. All they have to do is travel in between, and they have places to stay, and they have acquired quite a sum of money because of all of the magic that they've acquired and the time that they now possess endless amount of, they think, until it's discovered that the young boy that gave them that ability is actually being hunted by a man that has used and abused him and just wants to reap the magic from him. Literally probably end up killing him at one point just to get all of this magic. And they have to help protect him because he's one of them. They've all been mistreated, hurt, abused, and they refuse to ever let themselves be victims again, and they refuse to let him be a victim. There's romance involved in this between the main female lead and the main boy lead. That's really tender and soft because she comes from a place where she got sexually assaulted when she was younger, and she's never really trusted people besides her own group fully since then. But she has a connection with this boy that saw her in her darkest moment, and there's just something that sparks there, and there's something just so tender, sweet, and adorable, and just so healing about their relationship for romantic wise, because she is a whole healing, platonic, amazing relationship with all of the Wild Ones in her group. And it's so inspiring because there was a found family element, there was healing romance sparks. There was fighting back against oppressors, abusers, and refusing to take any sort of abuse anymore. Taking control back of your life, because a lot of these women have had things forced upon them, have fallen on hard times, or literally had things just happen a certain way, unfortunately, and they got the short end of the stick. And the Wild One gave them an opportunity to take back all of that power, and I really love that. That's why I'm like, I have to reread this. The vibes were definitely off with me, I think, because this is everything I've ever wanted. Like, even though it's I give it a 3.5 stars, I cried, people. So I'm definitely coming back to this because, God, like, I'm saying all of this stuff now and I'm already reconsidering. I'm just like, why did I give this a 3.5 stars? So this one's a tentative 3.5 stars. As I talk about it, it's already been boosted up to a 4. So once I do my reread, it's probably going to go up higher. So that's why I'm very appreciative that Simon Schuster gave me the opportunity to read this book. And all of my thoughts and opinions are my own, of course. The things that I didn't like about it when I read it, I really like aesthetically pleasing books, but this book went beyond the borderline, and I was like, okay, I have to read certain passages quite a few times to understand what you're describing, what I have to figure out here, because I am a little bit thick and I need to be able to, I'm a little bit dense. I'm not being mean to myself. I'm just like being honest. Like, sometimes I can fully grasp fantasy concepts. Other times I can't, and I need you to dumb that shit down for me. Like, really, I need you to dumb it down. So I had to reread passages quite a lot, and sometimes I had to keep track, like write on a ledger of like, okay, this is this character, this is some markers that I need to remember for this character, and keep a track of other characters, because there were so many wild ones to keep track of, and there's so many point of views. So I knew the main girl, and I knew the main boy, and I knew one other of the main girls whose name I forget now. And I just couldn't keep track of them that well, so I'd have to like flip through chapters to make sure I'm like, okay, am I keeping this correct? Is this the same person, or is this a different person? So those are like the only cons that I saw for my first read when I wasn't vibing with it as much. And the magic system did get explained. Like, in the beginning, I just was so lost, but once like you get to halfway through the mark, like, you fully grasp what's going on and all of the magic system. So my not understanding and having to reread kind of affected my enjoyment, and that's why it's first time read 3.5. The next book that I read was The Perfect Place to Die, and that was thanks to Sourcefire. Thank you so much for letting me read this. Again, all of my opinions are my own, as you will see with my ratings. The only reason this got my rating, which was 3.5 stars, is I took a full star off, is because, no, I took half a star off because I already knew this serial killer story. I knew this true crime story, so I wasn't surprised whenever the twist happened. But The Perfect Place to Die is set in Chicago during the 1890s, around the World Fair, which is hilarious because I've read like 3 other books the past 2 months that are set during that time in Chicago for the World Fair. But this is the first book that actually doesn't focus on the World Fair. The other ones did. This one is actually focused on the serial killer that haunted around the Castle Hotel. He built this hotel and had secret rooms and secret passages and little places that led nowhere or only to certain places, and he tortured and killed a lot of his victims that stayed at the hotel. This book followed a young woman who is trying to find her sister in Chicago after her sister fled because their father is very abusive to them and she wasn't putting up with it anymore. And suddenly when her sisters let her stop, she realizes something is terribly wrong. So she goes to Chicago and immediately is robbed. Lovely. But ends up, because she is robbed, she actually has the fortune of working with the Pinkerton detectives, and they tell her, like, unfortunately, there's no case here, so you'd have to work it yourself unless you can find evidence. So she actually does the full investigation herself. She's able to work with the nephew of the Pinkertons and a maid that helps her in her first time, and they help her at moments, but she fully does this investigation herself and finds work at the castle, finds out there's mysterious disappearances going around, and she knows for a fact that her sister worked there before she disappeared. Even though I was very interested in this, it does a lot of telling and time skips that I didn't enjoy, and it was very, like, 100% understand why it was slow, because, like, this is realistic and I fully appreciated that. That's why I didn't lose another half a star. It's realistic of how long it takes to, like, find out all of these crimes and what's going on and all of the clues, because it's not gonna happen all at once. But it was kind of boring, and I at times, and, like, I wanted to finish it, so I fully had to keep forcing myself to read. I feel like it just could have been a little bit shorter, or they could have had one or two things thrown in there to, like, make it more exciting. I already knew who it was, so if I hadn't known about this true crime story, like, I knew it would have been a 4-star, but it's ending with a 3.5. Okay. The next and last book that I read that was from this Tuesday was actually The Dead in the Dark. I want to give a huge thank you to St. Martin's Press for giving me access to this book. I've actually loved quite a lot of their other books that they've given me access to, and I really appreciate it. But this book was not for me, folks. I originally gave it a 1-star, and after thinking about it, I gave it a 2-star. A very barely there 2-star. I thought I was going to have everything I loved, and I really did not resonate with that book. And it's so funny because my two other friends who actually I share a lot of similar interests to in books love this book. So maybe I just need to go back and read, or it just wasn't my vibe this time. So they loved it. I did not. This is a supernatural, paranormal, crime, LGBTQ plus story, and literally all of those usually are like, yes, 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 yes. I didn't like it. So the story follows Logan and her two fathers, who are actually paranormal investigators. They're famous on TV, and they're going back to the town where they actually grew up. This town has so much mystery surrounded for her parents because they never talk about it, they don't ever mention it, and when they arrive, they're actually being blamed by the townsfolk for the disappearance of quite a few of their teenagers who've never been found, and one has shown up dead. And one of the missing teenagers is actually the boyfriend of our other main character, Ashley. And Ashley and Logan have to work together to figure out what's going on, because they are discovering that this is not going to end. It's either going to be her parents get blamed and it continues going on, or her parents leave and hopefully it leaves with them. But they have to figure out what's going on. It has a romance blossom between Logan and Ashley, and as that blossoms, so does all of the darkness around them that they realize that they're actually very connected to. So even after that synopsis, I was so let down by this book. I started this book in February, put it down for 2 months because I could not get into it. and then picked it up again a few months afterwards and started right from the beginning thinking, okay, maybe I just wasn't vibing with it that time. I'm going to vibe with it this time. I finished it within 2 days, a few days, and then just stewed, trying to think what I thought, because I like to give books the benefit of the doubt, but I could not get into this book. This book had so many time skips for me. It had so many like red herrings that weren't even good, in my opinion. And like the monster, what happened with the monster really made me mad, because I was like, do not go this route. And they did, and I was like, oh my god. I also guessed quite a lot of the plot twists right off the bat and hoped they weren't going for that route, but they did. And I'm actually really surprised, but yeah, I'm bisexual. I am literally the one with a lot of folks probably that like sees a character and sees certain things that I'm like, are you sure they're straight? Because like a lot of the stuff I'm reading, I read also in like other books between heterosexual couples, and this is like them leading up to them getting a romance. I'm like, or like when I get representation, I'm like, oh my god, yes, I see this. For some reason, I didn't see or understand why they were a romance. I didn't see how they felt for each other, and I was so confused. And I'm just like, did I miss a lot of things because I was trying to find like other things in the story to help for like what I didn't love in the plot? Like, was I searching for other things and just missed this entirely? Because I didn't see it, and I don't know why. So unfortunately, this one did not float my boat. I did not enjoy it. I appreciate all of the access. It just wasn't for me, but I'm very happy to know that both of my book friends actually gave it like 4.5 to 5 stars. So that goes to show you, some books all of you and your friends are going to love, some books you're not going to like, they're going to love, and some books I recommended to my friends that I have absolutely loved, they actually didn't like. So that is totally fine. That just wasn't a book for me. Well, that was a review of all of the books that I read for the Tuesday that just passed, for all of those releases. If you like what you see, if you don't, you can comment, you can like, you can dislike, you can tell me books that you want to read, you can recommend me some books, or you can defend the books that maybe I didn't like and tell me why I should give it another chance. Because sometimes you reread books and you love them. Sometimes you reread books you loved and you don't love them anymore. Other than that, this has been Wicklow. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you soon.